Marcus Hayes was a man who always believed that character was shaped in the daily battles of life. From a young age, he grew up in a tough neighborhood where the line between right and wrong was often blurred. But he never doubted which side he wanted to be on. His parents, devout and hardworking, taught him two things: keep your head held high even when the world tries to knock you down, and always lend a hand to those in need. Now, at 40, Marcus was a respected man, not just in his community but beyond. A lieutenant in the narcotics division of a large city, he led a team that trusted him as a fair and fearless leader. Yet, the burden was heavy. Every operation, every decision seemed to chip away at him. Angela, his wife, often found him sitting alone in the dark living room, reflecting on the names he wrote in his reports: ruined lives, broken families. It was a rainy Friday when everything changed. Marcus, as usual, was in his office finishing up a report on a complicated operation. The rain drummed against the window, creating an almost soothing sound. The room was quiet, except for the tapping of his keyboard. Then, someone knocked on the door. "Hayes, can I come in?" It was Captain Ronald Barnes, a man Marcus deeply respected. Barnes was the kind of leader who led by example, never asking anyone to do something he wouldn't do himself. "Of course, Captain. What can I do for you?" Marcus smiled, but quickly noticed the serious look on Barnes's face. The captain stepped in, closing the door behind him. He seemed thoughtful, almost as if he were searching for the right words. "You know, Marcus, I've been watching your work for a long time. Not just as an officer, but as a man. Your integrity, your dedication. It's rare to find someone like you." Surprised, Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot coming from you." Barnes paused, crossing his arms. "I got a call today from Bridgewater. It's a smaller city, a few hours from here. They're facing some challenges. The police chief there is retiring, and, well, they need a captain. Your name came up." Marcus blinked, caught off guard. The idea took him by surprise. "My name? But why?" "Because you're the best person for the job. I know you're comfortable here, but this is an opportunity to lead something bigger. Not just fighting crime, but shaping a community. Making a difference on a deeper level." A heavy silence hung between them. Marcus knew Barnes wouldn't offer something like this lightly. He also knew that accepting it would mean leaving everything he knew: his home, his team, his city. But it also offered something he hadn't said out loud: a chance to start fresh. "I wasn't expecting this, sir. I'll need time to think it over, to talk with my family." Barnes nodded, a small smile forming. "Of course, Marcus. But just know, you were meant for something bigger. Don't let fear keep you here." That night, Marcus drove home slower than usual. He looked at the familiar faces on the streets he'd patrolled for years, the places that had shaped his journey. He thought about Angela, his wife, who supported him in every decision but also bore the weight of his absences. And of course, he thought about his kids, Layla and Jordan, both teenagers, full of energy and opinions. As a father, Marcus did his best to balance discipline with love, but he knew his job often put barriers between him and his family. Angela was in the kitchen when he arrived, preparing dinner. The smell of pasta and tomato sauce filled the house, bringing a comforting warmth. "You're late, honey. Long day?" she asked, not looking up from the stove. "Something like that," he replied, dropping his bag on the floor. "Can we talk after dinner? It's important." Angela caught the tone in his voice but didn't press him. During dinner, Marcus watched his kids. Layla, at 15, was absorbed in her phone, laughing at something, while Jordan animatedly talked about his basketball practice. Marcus felt the weight of the decision he had to make. Accepting the offer would mean not just changing his life, but theirs as well. After dinner, he and Angela sat in the living room. The sound of the TV filled the space while the kids stayed in their rooms. "What's going on, Marcus? You've been acting strange since you got home." He took a deep breath and held her hand. "I've been offered an opportunity in Bridgewater. They need a captain. It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance, but it means leaving everything here." Angela looked at him intently. There was love, concern, and understanding in her eyes. And do you want this? I'm not sure. I think I do. But I need you all to be with me on this decision. She remained silent for a moment before offering a soft smile. We've always been by your side, Marcus. But we need to talk to the kids. This isn't just our decision. The next morning, Marcus woke up early. The night had been long, filled with conflicting thoughts. He sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee in his hand, as the pale morning light filled the room. Angela walked in, still in her robe, and joined him. Couldn't sleep? Huh? She asked, gently squeezing his hand. Not really. I keep thinking about what this means. For us, for the kids. I don't want to force anyone to change everything just for me. She looked at him with tenderness, but also with a steady resolve. Marcus, you've always sacrificed for us. You worked long hours, put your life on the line so many times, all to give us stability. Maybe this is more than an opportunity for you. Maybe it's our chance to live a different kind of life. A quieter one. Before they could continue, the sound of soft footsteps echoed down the hall. Layla and Jordan appeared, still sleepy but curious about the tension between their parents. Is everything okay? Layla asked as Jordan grabbed a piece of toast. Marcus took a deep breath. It was time to share the news. Kids, yesterday I got a job offer. It's an opportunity in another city, Bridgewater. They want me to be the police chief there. Jordan's eyes widened. Chief? That's awesome, he said with an excitement Marcus didn't expect. Layla, on the other hand, crossed her arms. So, we have to move, don't we? Leave my friends, my school, everything? Angela stepped in, trying to strike a balance. Yes, Layla, but we need to think about what's best for everyone. We won't make any decisions without hearing from you. I just want you to know this isn't something I'm deciding on my own, Marcus added. I want to know how you feel. It means a lot to me. Layla still looked upset, but Jordan seemed intrigued by the idea of starting fresh. The conversation didn't bring any immediate conclusions, but it planted the seed that a big change might be on the horizon. Later that day, Marcus met Captain Barnes at a diner near the precinct. The place was bustling, but the tone of their conversation was serious. So, have you thought about the offer? Barnes asked as he stirred his coffee. I'm still considering it. It's a big change, Captain. It's not just about me. My family, they have just as much at stake as I do. Barnes nodded, understanding. I get it. It's not an easy decision. But, Marcus, I'll be honest. Bridgewater needs someone like you. The town's dealing with some serious challenges. The community is divided. Trust in law enforcement is almost non-existent. They need a leader who knows how to listen, how to build bridges. And on top of that, it's a chance for you and your family to live a quieter life. You'd have a better salary and a more secure future for them. Marcus stayed quiet, taking in the words. He knew what it meant to lead a team during tough times. It wasn't just about strategy, it was about humanity. Do you really think I can make a difference there? He asked, almost as a confession. Barnes smiled. I know you can. And more than that, I believe this isn't just a job offer. It's a calling, Marcus. You have a unique way of leading. Don't waste that. That night, Marcus sat alone on the front porch. The moon cast its light over the yard, and the distant hum of the city sounded softer than usual. He reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. He thought about the moments when he almost gave up, the cases that had deeply affected him, the times he felt like he wasn't making a difference. Now, the offer from Bridgewater felt like more than just a professional opportunity. It felt like a chance to rewrite his story, to bring the kind of change he had always wanted to see in the world. But at the same time, the weight of leaving behind everything he and his family had built lingered heavily on his mind. Angela appeared in the doorway, holding a mug of tea. You're overthinking again, aren't you? Marcus offered a half smile. I can't help it. It's such a big decision. What if it doesn't work out? She sat beside him, her gaze steady. If there's one thing I know about you, Marcus, it's that you always make things work. You always find a way. Honestly, I think this town might need you as much as you need it." They sat in silence, side by side, contemplating what the future might bring. After nights of reflection, Marcus gathered Angela, Layla, and Jordan at the kitchen table. It was time to decide. He placed a map of Bridgewater on the table and began to speak. "I spoke with Captain Barnes again yesterday. He believes this opportunity is not just for me, but for us as a family. And I'm starting to believe that too. But I want to hear from you. How do you feel about this change?" Layla, still resistant, was the first to respond. "If we move, what am I supposed to do without my friends? I don't know anyone there. What if I don't fit in at the new school?" Marcus met his daughter's gaze patiently. "I know it won't be easy, but I promise to do everything I can to make this transition as smooth as possible. The town may be small, but it has good schools, and you can make new friends. You might even discover something new you love doing there." Angela placed a reassuring hand on Layla's shoulder. "And we'll be together. That's what matters most." Jordan, excited, cut in, "I want to go. I think it'll be cool. Plus, my dad's going to be the chief of police." "That's awesome." Layla rolled her eyes but managed a slight smile. Marcus took a deep breath and turned to Angela. "And you? Are you ready for this?" She held his hand and answered firmly, "I'll always be by your side. We'll make this work." The Hayes family began packing their belongings. Friends and neighbors said tearful goodbyes, promising to visit. On their last night in the city, Marcus reflected while loading boxes onto the moving truck. Leaving everything behind was a gamble, but he believed this move could lead to something greater for his family. On the drive to Bridgewater, the car was quiet, filled only with nostalgic songs and occasional comments about the scenery. Angela gazed out the window, lost in thoughts of the future. Layla was glued to her phone, while Jordan slept soundly. Arriving in Bridgewater, the change was immediate. The town's center featured wide streets lined with historic buildings and small local shops, nothing like the urban environment they'd left behind. Angela glanced out the window. "It's so quiet. It's going to take some getting used to. Or it might be nice not hearing sirens all the time," Marcus joked, trying to lighten the mood. Layla, however, seemed unimpressed. "Too quiet. It's like no one even lives here." Jordan, on the other hand, lit up as they passed a nearby park. "Hey, Dad, look at that soccer field. Can we play there?" "Absolutely, son." The following afternoon, as Marcus helped Angela unpack boxes, a pickup truck pulled up to the house. A burly man with graying hair and a warm smile stepped out. It was Chief Chambers, the man who'd brought Marcus to Bridgewater. "Welcome to Bridgewater, Marcus. I'm Chambers. Hope the trip was smooth." "Thank you, sir. It went well. We're still getting settled, but we like what we've seen so far." Chambers shook Marcus's hand firmly and looked at Angela and the kids. "And this must be your family. Angela, pleasure to meet you. And you two must be Jordan and Layla. I hope you'll enjoy the town." Angela smiled politely as Chambers continued. "I'll give you the weekend to get settled. On Monday, I'll take you to meet the team at the station. I know it won't be an easy transition, but I believe it'll be worth it in the end." Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "I'll be ready, Chief." That Sunday night, still adjusting to life in Bridgewater, Marcus decided to go for a run to clear his mind. Wearing a black jacket and an old pair of sneakers, he jogged through the quiet streets, his footsteps echoing in the stillness. The town was serene, with only a few lights on and a cool breeze rustling through the trees. Running had always been Marcus's way of finding balance amidst uncertainty. But tonight, his sense of balance would be tested. While jogging through a residential neighborhood, Marcus noticed a police car cruising slowly past him. He paid no attention until the car came to a stop ahead of him. Two officers stepped out quickly, flashlights in hand. "Hey you, stop right there." One of them barked, his hand resting on his holstered gun. Marcus stopped, raising his hands slowly. He knew that every move in moments like these mattered. "Good evening, officers. May I ask what's going on?" We got a call about a suspicious person walking around here. Who are you? What are you doing?" The tone was sharp, laced with distrust. Before Marcus could respond, the other officer approached. "Hands on your head. Now." Without resisting, Marcus felt their firm hands snap handcuffs onto his wrists. They yanked his jacket roughly as they frisked him in the middle of the street. Marcus's eyes remained calm but piercing as they met the officers. "My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm the new chief of police in this town." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, hesitation evident in their movements. One of them checked the ID Marcus had in his pocket. Upon confirming his identity, the officer's discomfort was palpable. "Chief, we're sorry. It was a misunderstanding. We didn't know," the older officer began, but Marcus raised his hand to stop him. "That's the problem. You're so used to acting with force and handcuffing any black man you see running down the street without even bothering to check their identity. It's just because they're black. This isn't about who I am. It's about what you just did to a man who was simply exercising. We'll talk about this on Monday. Right now, I need a ride home." The officers escorted him back, the tension in the air palpable, matched only by the shame on their faces. When Marcus stepped into his house, Angela was waiting for him in the living room, holding a cup of tea. The moment she saw the look on his face, she knew something serious had happened. "Marcus, what happened?" He took a deep breath before answering. "Something I need to fix. Not just for me, but for everyone in this town." On Monday morning, Marcus arrived at the precinct before the scheduled time. Chambers was already there, accompanied by a few officers. The stern expression on the chief's face made it clear he was aware of the incident. "Hayes, I need to speak with you," Chambers said, motioning him to his office. Inside, Marcus calmly recounted what had happened the previous night. Chambers listened, his face hardening as the details emerged. "That's unacceptable. I'll deal with those men immediately." Marcus shook his head. "No, Chief. Let me handle it. We need more than a slap on the wrist. We need real change." Shortly after, the two officers responsible for the incident were called into the office. As they entered, they avoided looking at Marcus, their postures stiff. "You know who he is," Chambers began, his voice firm. "And you know what you did. I want to hear from you. What were you thinking?" One of the men, clearly uncomfortable, tried to explain. "We got a call and we were just being cautious. We didn't know he was the new chief." "That's no excuse," Marcus interrupted. "It shouldn't matter who I am. You acted out of prejudice and used unnecessary force. That's not being cautious. It's being reckless." The officers stayed silent, and Chambers seized the moment to drive the point home. "This city has trust issues with the police, and now I understand why." That ends today. After the meeting, Marcus gathered all the officers for a speech. He spoke with clarity and conviction, making eye contact with each one. "I came to Bridgewater to make a difference, but I can't do it alone. We need to change how we work and how we treat people. I won't tolerate disrespect or prejudice in this department. If anyone has a problem with that, you can leave now." The silence in the room was deafening. Some officers looked defiant, but others showed signs of shame. Standing next to Marcus, Chambers nodded in approval. As the day wore on, Marcus knew the road ahead would be long, but he was determined to transform the culture of that precinct, one step at a time. Dinner was served at the Hayes household, but the atmosphere at the table was heavy. Angela, wearing a serious expression, cut her food into small pieces as she watched Marcus. Caleb and Maya, even as young as they were, sensed the tension and stayed quiet. Finally, Angela set her fork down and broke the silence. "Marcus, we need to talk about last night. What happened during your run?" Marcus glanced at the kids before answering. He couldn't hide the truth, but didn't want to alarm them either. "I was stopped by two officers during my run. They thought I was a suspect. They ended up handcuffing me before checking who I was." Angela's mouth fell open. Caleb frowned, and Maya looked at her father with wide eyes. "You were handcuffed? In your own town?" Angela asked, trying to keep her voice steady. It was a mistake. A mistake that reflects the kind of problem I'm here to fix. Angela took a deep breath, trying to process what had happened. Her concern was quickly turning into frustration. Marcus, I understand you want to make a difference, but this is more than we signed up for. We have kids to protect. Do you really think moving here was the right choice? Marcus reached for her hand across the table. I understand your concern. I know this won't be easy, but if we don't do something now, who will? Caleb and Maya deserve to grow up in a place where the police protect, not threaten. That's why I'm here. Angela looked at him for a long moment before finally nodding. All right, just promise me you'll be careful. For us? Marcus smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Always. Later, as he tucked Caleb into bed, the boy asked an unexpected question. Dad, were you scared last night? Marcus smiled, running a hand through his son's hair. A little, son, but fear can't stop us. What matters is what we do after. Caleb smiled back, clearly inspired by his father. So, you're going to change the city? I'm going to try. And you can help by always being kind and fair to people. With those words, Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose. His fight wasn't just for him. It was for his family and the community they now called home. The next morning, Marcus stepped into the precinct for the first time as chief. The building was old, with narrow hallways and walls showing their age. Small groups of officers huddled together, speaking in low tones. Conversations stopped as Marcus entered the main room. Chambers approached him, shaking his hand. Welcome, officially. Let's introduce you to the team. All the officers gathered in the briefing room. Marcus stood at the front, observing the faces before him. Some looked open to him, while others remained guarded. Good morning, team. My name is Marcus Hayes, and I'm your new chief. I know change can be uncomfortable, but I want to be clear from the start. My goal here is simple. I want this precinct to set the standard for professionalism and respect. He paused, his gaze steady as he looked directly at the officers who had made mistakes the previous night. That means treating everyone in this community with dignity, no matter who they are. I won't tolerate prejudice, abuse of power, or disrespect. We're here to serve, not to intimidate. The room fell into a tense silence, but Marcus didn't waver. He knew trust wouldn't come easily. Marcus wasted no time implementing changes. He brought in an expert to conduct mandatory diversity and ethics training. The training received mixed reactions. Some officers engaged willingly, while others grumbled their dissatisfaction. Marcus remained unfazed. He knew actions would speak louder than words. He also started connecting with his officers individually, chatting during breaks and showing genuine interest in their lives. Slowly, walls began to come down. In one conversation, a young officer named Brian voiced his frustrations. Chief, with all due respect, some people in this town just don't trust the police. It makes our job a lot harder. Marcus nodded, acknowledging the challenge. Trust is earned, Brian. It won't happen overnight, but together, we can change that. The chance to lead came during a high-pressure situation. An Amber Alert for a missing child. Marcus coordinated the search with speed and precision. When the child was found safe, relief and celebration swept through the precinct. Even the skeptics began to see Marcus's leadership in action. Officer Thompson, a veteran who had been openly resistant to change, approached Marcus after the operation. Chief Hayes, today, you showed what you're made of. I respect that. Marcus knew there was still a long road ahead, but this moment marked a turning point. Slowly but surely, he was building trust and transforming the precinct. Sitting on his porch, Marcus gazed at the starry sky, the gentle rustle of wind through the trees a welcome reprieve after weeks of hard work. He reflected on the journey so far, the challenges, the missteps, and the small but meaningful victories. It's not easy, he thought, but change never is. Each step forward, however small, felt like progress towards something bigger, a culture of respect and equality. Angela stepped outside, carrying 2 mugs of tea. She sat beside him, her smile full of understanding and support. "Thinking about the precinct?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Always. But also about what we're building. Not just there, but here as a family." As Marcus faced challenges at work, his family began settling into the new town. Caleb and Maya had made friends at school. One day, Caleb burst through the door, excitement lighting up his face. "Dad, my friend said he wants to be a police officer, just like you. He thinks it's the coolest job ever." Marcus smiled, feeling the weight of being a role model not just to his kids but to the entire community. Angela, too, was finding her place. After connecting with a local volunteer group, she started working on a program to support low-income families. "You know, Marcus," she said one evening, "maybe this town isn't so bad. It's small, but there's so much potential here. People just need a little direction." He took her hand. "That's what I'm trying to do at the precinct. Give direction. Show that we can be better." At work, changes became increasingly evident. Officers who had resisted began adopting more respectful approaches. The atmosphere in the precinct grew less tense, with camaraderie starting to take root. Captain Chambers, observing Marcus's impact closely, called him into his office. "Hayes, I've got to admit, when you got here, I was skeptical. Thought you wouldn't last long. But you're proving me wrong. The team's changing, and it's because of you. This precinct will be in good hands when I leave." Marcus smiled, staying humble. "There's still a lot of work to do, Captain. But thank you for believing in me." At a community meeting, Marcus addressed the townspeople, outlining his commitment to making the local police a trusted and approachable force. After his speech, an elderly woman approached him. "Chief Hayes, you've brought hope to this town. My grandson used to be afraid of the police. Now, he says he wants to be like you. Thank you." Her words struck a deep chord. Marcus knew there was still a long way to go, but moments like these reaffirmed he was on the right path. That night, back on the porch, Marcus and Angela watched their children playing in the yard. Caleb and Maya's laughter filled the air, a reminder of why they had made this move. "Do you think it's all been worth it?" Angela asked, resting her head on his shoulder. "It has," Marcus said. "Not just for what we're building now, but for what we're leaving behind for them. Every step we take is a brick in the legacy I want to leave. I want them to look back one day and know we made a difference." Angela smiled, pride shining in her eyes. As the soft wind blew, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. He knew the road ahead would be long and full of challenges, but he was ready to face them all. With his family by his side, Marcus Hayes was determined to build a brighter future, one step at a time. Enjoyed this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. They mean the world to us. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this one. Your support makes all the difference.